So what about our console error messages, though? What are those all about? Well, let's read the description here. The console error message are going to identify the problems with the commands that you have incorrectly entered so that you have the ability to alter or correct what you've done wrong. Works in the real world. Works in an exam environment. So if we are right now typing in the letter C, and I go ahead and hit enter. Oops, I didn't mean to. Look what it says, ambiguous command. So what is an ambiguous command? Well, the iOS, anytime you type in a command, if you don't type in the whole command, if it is not unique enough that the iOS knows a single command that you want to use, then it's going to tell you it's an ambiguous command, meaning that there's multiple commands that start with C. So let's say you typed in CL instead, CL, and you hit enter. Well, I know on my switches and routers that clock starts with CL, but also clear starts with CL. So the router would say ambiguous command, CL, because there's more than one entry that starts with CL. So any time that you hit enter for a command and there's more than one result of what you've typed in, it's going to give you an ambiguous command because it can't figure out exactly what you mean because there's more than one available option at that point in time. But if you typed in CLO, well, then it knows you mean clock because there's nothing else that starts with CLO. If you type in CLE, then it knows you mean clear because there's nothing else that starts with CLE. So you never have to type the full command or issue the full syntax. You only have to issue enough letters, numbers, and characters so the device is able to ultimately identify that you mean clear or you mean clock or you mean whatever you mean at that point in time. Down here we can see that we typed in clock set. But in this case, when we hit enter, it says there's an incomplete command. Why? Because we didn't finish all the syntax that is necessary in this particular case. We didn't. Clock set. That was it. That's all we typed in. We're expecting more. So the router is saying, hey, you didn't type it enough. Or in this case, the switch is saying, you didn't type it enough. Give me more. Same thing with this one here. Clock set. And then at the time, it's still saying, hey, you didn't set enough here. You're missing some additional information. And then down at the bottom here, you'll see that it's giving us the caret symbol. And in this case, it's identifying to us where we made a mistake. It says invalid input detected at this specific point in time. And yes, the iOS will point it out to you. And the reason why is because it understands clock set 1950 0025 space 6. It's like, what is this 6? You refer to, I'm not expecting a 6 here. I'm expecting something completely different. So that's what's happening in that case. So what does all this mean? Well, ambiguous command. You didn't enter enough characters for your device to recognize the command. Re-enter the command. Now, if you don't know what it is, re-enter the command and follow it with a question mark. Not with a space, right up against it. So that way there you know how many more characters you need. For example, if you typed in SHOWCON and it says ambiguous command, well then type in SHOWCON with a question mark right up against it, and it'll tell you what options start with CON. And then you'll realize, oh, I wasn't accurate enough. I wasn't specific enough with my command. So then you'll adjust it. With your incomplete command, you didn't enter all the keywords or values that the command is required to have. So at that point in time, re-enter your command followed by the question mark. But leave a space at that point in time so that way there you can identify what command you were missing. And then what about that invalid input marker detected at this point in time? Well, it's telling you made a mistake here. So again, you're going to use context-sensitive help so that way there you can display the commands and the parameters that are available to that command and figure out what you did wrong. So let's look at an example of how we could implement this in our environment. So up at the top, we're trying to set the clock command right now. So I'm setting clock set, and then we said 1950, 25.6, question mark. And it says we have an unrecognized command. It doesn't recognize what I'm trying to type in right now. And the reason why is because I put a number here. It's not expecting a number. It's expecting a name like January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December. That's what it's programmed to accept. I put 6 for June when I should have typed in JUN for June or JUNE for June. So it's expecting the name of the month, not the number of the month. But notice that once I was able to, once I typed in June and hit enter again, it says my command's incomplete now. So it recognizes June, it understands June, but it's incomplete now. So an unrecognized command is coming flat out and saying, I don't recognize this. But in this case here with June, it's saying it's an incomplete command, meaning I understand everything you've typed in so far, but you didn't complete the command. So we're going to use context-sensitive help. Notice how we leave the space between June and the question mark. And now it's saying we need a year here. You forgot to put in the year. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and put the year in. So you put the year in at 2015. If I would have hit enter, it would have executed the command correctly. But notice I decided just to double check. Hey, is there any more thing else I can type here? So I put in a space, put in the question mark for context-sensitive help, and it says you can hit enter now. So that's what the carriage return means. It means go ahead and hit enter. There's nothing else for you to input at this point in time. So now we look at clock set 1950, 25 June 2015. We hit enter, and we'll see that our clock has been adjusted appropriately. So walk your way through the commands if you must. But I wouldn't be able to do this unless I knew where to go, right? If I was in global configuration mode, would this command work? No, it wouldn't. Help cannot help you out if you're not in the right mode. So that's why number one priority for you if you're new to the iOS is really understand where to go to implement the commands that you intend to implement. So here, if I'm setting the clock, I got to be in global configuration. If I'm going to set the clock, I have to be in privileged exec mode, right? Privileged exec mode. So I know I have to be in that mode. Other commands, where are you going to have to be to do that? So setting the clock is privileged exec mode, but if I want to set the host name, it's global configuration mode. If I want to set up a static route, then I got to go into global configuration mode. If I want to set the speed or duplex of an interface, then I have to go to interface configuration mode. So do I know the commands necessarily right now? No. Could I use the help to get my way through it? Yes, and that's what I'm showing you here. But the help doesn't help if you're not in the right mode.